Okay, welcome. This is going to be, this is a new thing for me, okay? I'm going to be going through a few tabs and I'm going to be basically discussing with everyone today why the Mormon Church is a falsehood and why the people that are in the church are mentally enslaved. And I'm going to go into great detail about this to the best of my ability. Okay, this is a new kind of thing for me, doing it like this. I don't really like talking really like to other people or anything like that, so this is new for me, but I think I have to do this. So I want to get started here now. So what I have here on the left side of the screen is what I'm going to be discussing, and then as I go through the topics, I am going to be providing evidence why it is false, the Mormon Church, and fundamentally how it ties into other things that are coming to light, shall we say, among a lot of people that I've also come across. So I want to start off just by saying that the Mormon Church was founded by Joseph Smith in 1830. I believe we can find it here. Lafayette or something like that, New York. Let's see. Let's see. Oh, hold on. I've already made a mistake here. Okay, yes. So, April 6th, 1830. Now, throughout this video, I would like to just keep everyone paying attention to the fact that all this stuff is going on around the 1800s, which is, to me, it was very suspicious. First of all, this is kind of was sticking in my head. 1800s. A lot of stuff was going on around this time. So, during the time of the Mormon Church, the founding of the Mormon Church, we had a lot of other things going on. So you had also the rise of Masonry in Europe, okay? And then at the same time as well, there was the Napoleonic Wars, which I'm going to be going into as well. We're going to be reading through a little bit about the Napoleonic Wars. Bear with me though, because I'm not scripting any of this. I'm literally just going to, I've spent a few hours just opening a few organizing a few groups here on the browser, and I'm going to be going through it, and then as I go through it, I'm going to be then putting down my reasons why I believe, shall we say, the evidence. That's a better way to put that. Again, this is not scripted, I'm just talking, okay? So yeah, 1830, April 6th, Mormon Church was founded, and it was founded by a man named Joseph Smith. And as you can see here, that's a Freemason ring, okay? I don't like those eyes, by the way. Anyway. Now, Joseph Smith was actually born to quite a prominent family, the Smith family, okay? And the Smith family, before obviously the founding, they were involved in a lot of kind of sus stuff. So let's go down here and let's see here. So Joseph Smith Sr. Let's check out this guy for a second. Joseph Smith Sr. Was the father of Joseph Smith Jr., founder of the Latter-day Saint movement, and also one of the 8 witnesses. So that's interesting. So you have one of the 8 witnesses of Joseph Smith, his own dad. I mean, first presiding patriarch as well. That's right. Anyway, okay. So let's read a bit down about his life. Okay, so Smith was born in 1771. Okay, 5 years before the end of the millennial reign. We'll get into that. To Ace Hall, I don't even know how to say that, and Lucy Mack in Tunbridge, Vermont. Okay. All right, we don't need to really go through any of that, but I just want to see if we can find the Yeah, okay, so from the beginning anyway, he had Joseph, his family, and his acquaintances consistently listed September 21st, 1823, the equinox, as a pivotal night in his life. The next day, he told his father that he had been visited in the night by a supernatural being who revealed the location of a nearby treasure. The Smith family believed in prophetic dreams or visions. Both parents and his maternal grandfather had previously reported such dreams. So he was a dreamer. Okay, so I think this man was touched at the very least. Okay, but there is evidence down here. Sorry, not evidence. There is kind of information down here that shows that they were involved in folk magic, because there's a lot of folk magic within here. Here we go. Here's some folk magic. The seer stone. I like to call it the donut stone. This is a kind of folk paganistic magic. Here we go. Smith's first revelation, which he and his followers interpreted as direct communication from God, announced that the material covered in the last pages has blah, 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 blah. Okay. A distant cousin from Vermont had also dabbled in folk magic. So these people were very much inclined to the esoteric, shall I say. So in my opinion, that means they were essentially looking for any reason to basically, he was looking for treasures. They were using folk magic, and in a way, I believe that's sorcery. So what does the Bible have to say on sorcery? Okay. The Bible consistently condemns sorcery as an evil, deceptive practice and an abomination to God. So here we go already. Sorcery. Abomination to God. Okay. Sorry if you can hear me typing. So there, even before the church was founded, we had the so-called prophet of the Mormon church, already dabbling in what would be sorcery. Okay. Very interesting. So we're going to leave that for now, but we're going to go on here. To Joseph Smith's children for a second, because I want to basically just go down this. So Mormons don't practice polygamy anymore, but it was very common in the early church history to practice polygamy, and there's also a sect separate from the modern LDS called the FLDS, the Fundamentalist LDS Church, and they still practice polygamy. And they are pretty intense. So in a way, they are the true Mormons. They followed Mormonism from its inception right up until the present day, whereas the modern LDS churches tailor-made their religion for the masses. Okay. Plus, I think the president of the FLDS is actually a descendant of the Smith family, too. Or somewhere along those lines. But let's just go down and see how many children this gentleman had. So, okay, we're not going to count, but there's definitely more than that. Let's see here, how many children. I don't think it says anything in the Bible about taking more than one wife, because that's in the Bible. Okay, there's been many prophets. There's been many men that God used for his purposes that had many wives. So that's, as well as King Solomon. So that's not really like an issue in a sense, in a biblical sense. But the sorcery, definitely, that's an abomination to God. Okay, so Emma Smith's probably the most well-known wife of his, and she actually left Joseph after. let's see. Let's see all these wives. And a lot of these women were young, very young. So here we have 22, 16, 20. I don't think they'll even list the 14-year-olds, but they were 14-year-old wives. Yeah. So you got, oh, here we go. 14. Okay, and now a lot of this, a lot of what was happening was he was marrying a lot of these church members who were going out on mission. So a lot of these church men who were going out on these missions, he was then marrying their wives and having sex with them. Okay, I don't know if I can find it here or anything like that, but basically that's what was going on. Okay, and he had lots of children, and one of these, I don't know if it's this dude here. Okay, so he even created his own separate sect. I've never even heard of the Reorganized Church of Jesus Christ Latter-day Saints. Never even heard of that. Okay, so we'll close this for now. But I want to move on to another prominent family within the Mormon Church, and this family is actually they're very tied politically to they're tied to the political American principality, shall we say. And this is the Romney family. Now, kind of a side thing here, the Romney family is very powerful. And actually, as it says here, LDS royalty, okay? Now, there's a lot of iffy stuff going on with the Romney family. There was a post on 4chan. Now, a lot of people don't believe it. I believe it. Basically, there was a gentleman who was working for Mr. Epstein, and one of his clients or whatever he had to go work for was a member of the Romney family, and I can believe it because there is actually a Cole Romney. Let's see if we can find him. See, I've actually clicked on it there. Oh, yeah. There we go. Cole Romney. Yeah. So, I don't know if that's exactly him, but just food for thought. But the fact that they're treated like a political dynasty and LDS royalty. So they're also linked to the Smith family by marriage. Very interesting. Okay. They're also linked with a few other powerful families in Utah. Look at this face. I don't know. I don't like that face. And then also Mitt Romney was he actually ran during for president back in 2012. He lost against Obama, obviously. That was designed that way. But it's just interesting to know how a lot of these Mormon families create these dynasties, like in the old world. So they're all connected, okay? They're all connected. And then this ties me into, let me just pull it up here, Mormonism and Freemasonry, okay? So I'll just read a little bit here. The relationship between Mormonism and Freemasonry began early in the life of Joseph Smith, founder of the Latter-day Saint movements, which includes similarities between Mormon and Masonic rituals, okay? Now, if you know anything about Masonry, it's basically Kabbalah, but for Gentiles, right? Or shall I say, it's been used to deceive a lot of people. And a lot of the Masonic, let me see if I have it here. Masonic rituals. No, we'll stay on here for now. But, damn, I lost my thing. But a lot of the early that's it. A lot of the early members of the church were Masons, okay? So I'm going to move on to him in a second here, but I want to talk about Masonry and what it means, basically. So Masonry is these are people who serve Lucifer, okay? They serve the devil. A lot of them are unaware that they serve the devil, okay? But they do. They are his pawns in this deception that we now live in. And basically, the rituals of Freemasonry are tied intrinsically to the founding of the Mormon Church, okay? In fact, the Mormon Church is essentially, it's just chock full of Masonic symbols, rituals, handshakes, like pulling people through the veil when you do your temple endowment, or not endowment, but like when you get married or whatever, you have to go to the temple and you have to pull someone through like a sheet, Okay, I've never been married in the Mormon church, so I don't know. But I think this here is where Smith was inducted, okay? And he was inducted, I think, shortly after he became the first president, okay? So, and he was inducted to a 33rd degree. Now, you cannot request to become a 33rd degree Mason. You have to be, you have to be called, basically, as they would also say in the Mormon church. But it's very difficult, because once you reach that level, a lot of knowledge is given to you. A lot of Kabbalistic Babylonian knowledge is given to you. And to be of that way, to be part of a secret society, is also not part of, it's also not what God wants for you. So let's see here. God's views on secret societies. Right. I need to find verses here because I'm just using AI. But we'll not go in deep here. But basically, based on biblical principles, God's view on secret societies is generally understood as unfavorable, as they operate in darkness, utilize hidden oaths, and prioritize exclusive knowledge over the transparent truth of the gospel. Okay, so there we go. God is unfavorable. We'll just do this. We'll just copy this. What's going on here? Okay. Sorry about that. I'm just gonna. That's just a lot easier because I have to kind of go through all these tabs as quickly as possible. We're gonna get onto that in a second. But basically, we're gonna get onto the rings in a second. Okay. But basically, I think the first five presidents of the Mormon Church have been Masons, or were inducted later on into Masons, if not already Masons before they became president. Okay, so I know definitely that Joseph Smith was a Mason, and we also have this gentleman here, Brigham Young, the second president of the, I almost said United States, the second president of LDS Church. Okay, now this man was actually a first governor of Utah. Now, he worked for the federal government, which in my opinion is setting off a lot of alarm bells, okay? He was also one of the wealthiest men. Let's see, because I actually had that open just before. He was one of the wealthiest men in the region. Now, I don't know about you, but let's see. Is it even going to show me? I don't know about you, but I don't think God blesses men of secret societies with wealth, extreme wealth. Okay, I just don't think that's a... let's see. I definitely seen it here. Here we go. Okay, here, look here. At the time of his death, Young was the wealthiest man in Utah with an estimated personal fortune of $600,000, equivalent to 18 million. That's pretty intense. Now look at the symbolism of these. This doesn't look right to me. Okay. Statues of men. Where are the statues of Christ? Where are the statues of the Lord? Okay, these are statues of Masons, servants, and Masons are servants of Lucifer, and Lucifer is the one who gives you the wealth of the world. Okay, not God. Yeah. What if you're a man of God? What do you need with all this money? You don't. Okay, and the church is one of the wealthiest organizations in America. So we're going to close up Brigham Young here. And then I want to talk quickly about John C. Bennett. Now, John Cook Bennett was an American physician and briefly a ranking and influential leader of the Latter-day Saints movement, who also acted as mayor of the Navajo, Illinois. Okay, now, Navajo, Illinois is where, that Navajo, Illinois lodge is where Joseph Smith was inducted as a Mason. And if you know a lot about Masons, this is a telltale sign. They like to hide their hand, one hand, okay? This man was a general. He was actually assistant president to the church. Very interesting. Now, I wouldn't say my my knowledge of LDS is extreme, but I grew up, so I have a general knowledge, but I'm just piecing a lot of stuff together live, okay? But let's just read here a second. After Bennett left Navajo in May 1842, he claimed to have been the target of an attempted assassination by Navajo Danites who were disguised as women. In July 1842, he wrote a series of letters, accusing Smith of conspiring. So he actually accused Joseph Smith of conspiring to assassinate the former Missouri Governor Boggs. Wow, didn't know that. So even at that time, you had these powerful men. You had Joseph Smith, who came from a family who, to be quite frank, practiced sorcery. Okay, they were on the lookout for mystical treasures and wealth and power. And if also another thing, a lot of people don't know is Joseph Smith, who actually ran for president of the United States, but he was unsuccessful. Thank the Lord. Okay. But yeah, look at this. Look at this. In late 1842, Bennett published History of the Saints, or an expose on Joseph Smith and Mormonism, accusing Smith and his church of crimes including treason, conspiracy to commit murder, prostitution, and adultery, with the preface that begins, "I have been induced to prepare and publish the following work by Isaiah to expose the enormous iniquities which have perpetrated by one of the grossest and most infamous impostors that ever appeared on the face of the earth." Wow. So very strong opinions here. And by many of his minions, under the name and garb of religion, and professedly by the direct will and commandment of Almighty God. Through his newspaper and writings and book, Bennett appeared to encourage Missouri's June, whatever. We won't go there. But basically, there was a lot of fighting. Because I'm guessing they couldn't get enough country bumpkins away to try and have sex with their wives. So they started fighting amongst themselves. These men of power of this world, how foolish they are. Okay, and yet again, I need to stress, we got the Romneys here. We got Mitt Romney again, an LDS. Where is it here? An LDS political dynasty, political royalty, and they're a very wealthy family. Look, connected families. Okay, look here, interesting. But in the end, Mr. Smith got his comeuppance, and he was killed in this place here, Carthage Jail. Okay, a fitting name as well, Carthage Jail. All right, this is where Carthage, I don't know if anyone knew, was an ancient Phoenician city, the capital actually of the Phoenician Empire, and they had a lot of wars. I think 2 or 3 Punic wars against Rome. And ultimately the Romans triumphed, but there was a lot of sacrificing in Carthage. There was a lot of sorcery in Carthage. There was a lot of other stuff. So I just want to add here as well, Masonic connections. Okay. And then I'm going to put here first 5 presidents. I'm gonna have to double check that it's 5. It might be less than that, but I think it is 5. Okay, so ready. And that it was actually restored. And here's a funny thing as well. These buildings, these new buildings of the Freemason Church, they've been, inducted into the National Register of Historic Places. Okay, which is very interesting, I think. But we'll come back to Joseph Smith in a second. I want to go back to a few Masonic things here. Okay. Here. A significant number of leaders in the early Latter-day Saints movement were Masons prior to their involvement in the movement, including Heber C. Kimball and John C. Bennett. So Bennett was actually a Mason before. He must have seen how, Joseph Smith was a power-hungry man. He was a power-hungry man, like the fact that he ran for president, he was having sex with all these women, like it's just, if your eyes are open, you can see this stuff. Okay. Here we are here, and it even shows us here, Navajo Lodge. Okay. All right, so we're gonna close this because the ties are everywhere. Okay. Masonry and Mormonism they're parallel to each other. They are one and the same. One is simply a society, the other is simply a spiritual order of bondage, in my opinion, but not really. Okay. Now, again, I want you to keep these dates in mind. 1830. Okay, so we'll type in here 1830 church founding. Apologies if you can't read that as well. I'm gonna have to make it all bigger in a second. Right. Let's see if we've covered everything on this tab. A second. Here we go. Is that the Masonic symbol right there? I don't know if you can see that. I don't know if anyone can see that, but that looks like a Freemason symbol on his coat there. Let's actually go through a few pictures, okay? Similarities and symbolism, right? No, we'll keep this open for now. Okay. And now let's talk a bit about rings, okay? Let's first go on to Mason rings. Let's talk about Mason rings for a second, okay? So rings are very important to the earthly rulers of this world, as well as they are symbols of power. Okay. Yeah, interesting. Okay. A Masonic ring is a piece of jewelry worn by Freemasons to symbolize membership, dedication, and commitment to the fraternity. Common designs feature the square and compasses symbol, often with the letter G or other emblems, typically crafted in gold, silver, or stainless steel. This is also interesting. Gold or silver. These are alchemical, and also this is like God money, basically. I wouldn't say this is God's money, but this is like eternal money. Gold and silver have been around forever and will be around essentially forever, as far as we know. Okay, I can't see into the future. And they are worn on the pinky finger. Interesting as well. Let me just see here. Okay, so also different rings for different rites. So the Scottish rite, I think, is blue. Oh no, Blue Lodge. Oh, sorry, my mistake. But let's have a look. Let's have a look at some of these rings, and then I want to show you something very interesting. Okay, I seen one earlier when I was compiling these tabs. Where is it now? Anyway, just take a gander here for a second. Pause it if you need to, and then I want to show you this here. CTR rings. Okay, so what happens is in the Mormon church is when you're young, you would get given this this ring basically, and what it stands for, CTR, means choose the right. Okay, and it's kind of like it's like you wear it and it signifies you're gonna remain pure for marriage and a lot of other stuff, and I think a lot of what the church does teach is good. But overall, the consequences of what you end up as is not good. Okay, so these are very similar to me. Wearing rings, Masonic symbols. But this is for kids. This is for the youth. Okay, and then you got Masonic rings. Okay, and let's talk about the ring symbolism for a second as well. Let's see the symbols here. Square and compass represent morality. I don't believe that. Equality and self-restraint. The letter G symbolizes the new God of this world, not the Most High. Okay, the great architect of the great lie. We're going to cover the great lie soon. The all-seeing eye. Okay, this is also very interesting. The eye of Sauron. Okay, so the eye of Satan. Okay. I don't even know what else to say. This is clear. The similarities between CTR and Masonic rings is clear. Okay. Now, in Christian tradition, generally, rings symbolize eternal love, fidelity, covenant, and authority. So what's happened is the church is essentially, like, again, Lucifer can only mimic, he can only whatever. So he's passing down these rituals, these acts that you would take on. So you would wear these rings, like as you would in the Masonic church. You would also wear Masonic lodges. You would also wear certain rings in church and that kind of stuff. It's very interesting. Whereas actual Christian rings are more like covenants and authority. Okay. Wedding rings represent a couple's vow and God's binding love. This is very interesting as well. Okay, let's see here. Masonic rituals. Oh yeah, no. Let's go on to all the Masonic symbols within the LDS Church. Just so I want to show you. I want to show you why. Okay. Let's go into images here for a second. Okay. A pentagonal star. Sorcery, okay? Not good, okay? Again, that's blatant sorcery on church buildings. Okay. Now that's just one example, but there are more. There are loads. There are loads of these. Let's see here. We have the all-seeing eye. I don't know if you can see that, guys. Oh, here, there's a better one here. All-seeing eye. This is ripped straight from Masonry, and note that this is before you enter the door. So this here, this eye, is before you would enter the door. So you are entering. And I don't know if anyone knows about like doorways and stuff like that. Like everything has meaning in this world. So doors here, we have all-seeing eye watching you as you enter his domain, shall I say. We also have, this is Masonic symbolism for the bars of the cows or whatever. This is stuff that was done as well, I believe during the second temple, King Solomon's temple. And now none of this is necessary, okay? You don't need to do any of this. The Jesus Christ is the only sacrifice, okay, and he was the last sacrifice, and anything beyond is it's not it. Okay, here we go. This image isn't too clear, but as you can see, there are symbols of Masonry everywhere. Another pentagonal star, all-seeing eye. There's also something called the Masonic handshake as well. Right, that's also something interesting to pay attention to. Okay, so we're going to move on away from that for a second. Oh, look here. Look, the pentagonal star, and then we have sigil of Baphomet here, which is also a pentagonal star. Very interesting stuff. This is not for nothing. Okay, everything has a meaning. Right now, I'm going to go away from that for a second. What am I doing here? New tab. Let's see. Sorry, I'm gonna have to jump around here for a second. No, I'm not gonna read that just yet. But basically, yes, let's go through similarities in Mormonism, similarities in symbolism and ritual in the LDS Church. Okay, so if you look at the lodges in Freemason lodges, how they sit opposite each other, and then you have I would guess this is the Grand Master, okay, and then interesting enough as well, you have the G, okay, you have the G over here, which this is the symbol for the Grand Architect or Lucifer, okay, and then you would have like some kind of ceremony, I'm guessing, where they sacrifice children or something, right? And then have a look here. I'm going to show you. This is the council room of the First Presidency and the 12 Apostles. Very similar. Okay, there's no G or nothing here. This is kind of Baroque. I like this style. They don't have buildings like this no more. We're going to get into that. Okay. Let's have a look here as well. The Elder's Room, I think this was called. Elder's Room. Again, look, the similarities. The rows of chairs up against the wall. This is by a doorway here, but you've got these two chairs on either side, okay? This reminds me a lot of, if I go back here, oh no. Sorry guys. Okay, here, look. See how there's two chairs on either side? Like, this is very similar to Satan's choice, Satan's false, like white magic and dark magic. I'm not too clued up about that because I don't want to be, because this is not stuff you should really know if you're not involved with this. But look, two pillars with the all-seeing eye, and it's a doorway. Look, there's a doorway here. Okay, so we have the initiates. I'm guessing we would have the masters here, and then the doorway. And this is where the architect, you go through the doorway. Okay, this is like initiation. Let's see here as well. We have a Masonic initiation in Paris, 1745. Okay, so this would have been before, or look, again, we have the two pillars. Okay, we have the two pillars. Interesting. But this date is interesting to know. Okay, so I just want to say, add here, rise in Masonry, late 1700s and 1800s. Okay. Now let's move on. Okay, so I just want everyone just keep these dates in mind. Okay. But definitely the two pillars represent the opposing, the light, the dark. Then there's also they have the tiles, these red, black and white tiles, also symbolizing duality again, which is the false choice that Lucifer offers you. Okay. I don't know if we're going to go into this here. We'll read this a second. Worship in temples of the LDS Church shares a commonality of symbols and signs with Masonry. However, the meanings of each are different for the Freemasons and the LDS. Not really, because they're both venerating, a lot of the time, without knowing, the great architect by these rituals. Again, there are no rituals or sacrifices or anything like that needs to take place. Jesus Christ was the final sacrifice, and that's it. So all of this is sorcery, okay? And this is secret society shit, right? It's bad, right? I'm gonna close this. Let's see if we can let's have a look at a few more pictures here if they're good. What's going on here? Yeah, look, this is basically where you get married. Okay, this green little tuft here, I think, is basically you're emulating what would be Adam and Eve. So you're kind of like being born again in a sense, and this is where you would pull your partner out from when you got married. Look at this. These robes, very similar. Also very similar to Levitical high priests. Okay, and the Levites, they also fell into, they did not remain pure, and they became part of the second seed, or the serpent blood, which is a topic I'm going to touch on, but I'm not going to say that I believe in it completely, but it has some validity in what I'm talking about here. Okay, so Mormonism and Freemasonry are intrinsically linked, okay? Do I have that here? Yes, I do. Okay, so we're going to close that. Now, I want to talk a bit about my personal experiences, and also some of the things that Lucifer or Satan or whatever does. He always mixes in truth, and there's always kind of good stuff and there's always bad stuff, but ultimately there's always like you pay more than what you would, there's always a hidden cost in addition to the actual cost. Okay, so let's look at some of these rules for the Mormon church. Okay, so you got 613 rules. That's crazy. I'm not going to read them all, but we're going to scroll down a little bit, and I'm gonna basically talk about a few of them. Okay, so take the sacrament again. There's no need for any of this. Christ was the final sacrifice. None of that. And again, we have some good stuff in here. Like you shouldn't be using drugs. Okay, you shouldn't be drinking. You shouldn't be smoking. Okay, here's no follow and sustain the prophet. All the prophets are dead, right? This should be number 1 here. That's number 15. This should be number 1. Okay. Good stuff here. We have good stuff here. Okay, the temple was destroyed. You don't need to go into any temples because the third temple is within you. Okay, there's no physical third temple. Okay, accept all church calling given to you by the bishop. So you have no choice. You have no choice. You have to accept. This is part of their laws. And if you go to any of these Mormon things, whenever they like call you for something, you'll check everyone will raise their hand. Not like almost never will someone not raise their hand. So they're like in this, weird, whatever. What I don't even know what there's a scriptorian. Basically, I'm guessing know the scriptures well. So like this is good stuff here too. Look, be well educated. Okay, but now we're gonna keep going down here. Pray using only King James language, thee, thou, thy. Now, this is interesting. We're going to go back to that. Okay. This here as well. This is where you basically brainwash yourself. So they brainwash you to a certain age and then you brainwash yourself at the end. But let's go back here. Premarital sex. Okay, this is pretty good. You shouldn't really be doing this. Necking or petting. Oh, this is like oral sex and basically like fingering and stuff. So like good stuff. You shouldn't really be like getting involved with a lot of stuff anyway like that. You don't take drugs, whatever. But look how many laws there are. Okay, look how many laws there are. This is good, right? This is part of God's law here, right? Grow a garden. These are pretty good, Yeah, and then we have 2 good ones, and then before we have propagandize yourself. And then do good shit afterwards. So you see what I'm saying? There is a lot of like good stuff in here, but it's also mixed in with like cult mentality. So they mix the good with the bad. So it's basically, it's like, what are you gonna do when you have a bitter pill to swallow? You have a bit of sugar, but this is a lot of sugar, okay? And there also a lot of good stuff that you can get when you're in the church. Like, it's a good community, but again, a lot of the stuff, anyway, that I've learned is overall, these people are ill-informed. So yeah, let's talk about my personal experience. Mormon people are ill-informed. Okay, they have a lot of them have a superiority complex, and I'll admit that firsthand because I used to have that. I used to judge everyone who wasn't even like a Christian or anything like that. So that has, that's definitely a part of it. Superiority complex. Okay, I'm gonna have to go back, and I'm like super OCD about that. I like my spelling. Okay, so superiority complex. They also don't want to know about other things, so they're only wrapped up in their own little communities and stuff. So they're basically, again, ill-informed, but they're cut off from the world. When I say the world, I don't mean the world in a biblical sense. I'm talking about they are cut off from normal human society. Okay, cut off. I'm gonna say cut off from reality. I'm not gonna be too harsh as society. Okay. Now, I mean, I'm not gonna go through that. We're gonna stop that now. Let's talk about endowment for a second. Okay. Actually, no, let's not talk about this basically, because this is gonna be 10 minutes. If I have to go into this, you can research endowment on your own, guys. Okay, this is what I want to get onto. Okay, anachronisms. Okay, this ties in a lot to Napoleon's conquest as well, because there is this thing called the Rosetta Stone. Right now, when the Mormon Church was basically coming about, sometime, I don't know exactly the day, but it was somewhere in the 1800s, there were these Egyptian papyri, okay? And actually, I'll pull it up here. I'll look it up here. Right. Yes, this is what it's called. So, some dude, some like historian or whatever, found these papyri, and what happened was, Joseph Smith, obviously he seen this, and he must have thought, because no one was translating Egyptian at the time. Okay, no one had been able to translate Egyptian for a long time. All the translations of Egyptian language and hieroglyphics before the Rosetta Stone came out were all proven false once it came out. Okay, so Joseph Smith's papyri was no different. Okay, basically a brief description of the Rosetta Stone was essentially like an old school newspaper. So you would have Egyptian hieroglyphics, and then ancient Greek, and I think there was another language. Okay, all printed on the stone. I think it's 3 languages. It looks like 3. Yeah, so you got hieroglyphics at the top. I think this is Greek, and then this is another one. Okay, so basically all it was an announcement in 3 languages. So this was crucial, and this was found around about the time when Joseph Smith got his hands on the papyri. But this was in Egypt in 1799. Okay, this was found in 1799 in Egypt, right? And the papyri that Smith had, because you got to remember as well, the Rosetta Stone had to be transported to England. Then they had to decode it using these other language, and then only the knowledge that hieroglyphics had been translated spread across the pond to America. So by that time, Smith had actually translated, okay, so he says he had so translated these papyri, and he called it the pearl of great price. But as we find out in the anachronisms, if I can even find it here, no, we'll just stick with this. We'll just read from here, okay? In 1842, Smith published the first part of the Book of Abraham, which he said was an inspired translation from the papyri. The consensus among both Mormon and non-Mormon scholars is that the characters on the surviving papyrus fragment do not match Smith's translation. Translation of the Book of Joseph was never published by Smith, but the scroll purported to be the untranslated Book of Joseph has been found to be a copy of the Egyptian Book of the Dead. Okay, so he was way off. He was way off, okay? And whenever this thing here, the Rosetta Stone, which was found by Napoleon's army in Egypt during his Egyptian campaign, he just put everything, not just Joseph Smith and his papyri, but a lot of what people had been translating up to that point in Egyptian just turned out to be complete bullshit. So there we go. There we go. He God complex. I mean, this looks like evil shit to me. Sorry, I'm not going to swear too much, but this is what he did here. He filled in the blanks, so to speak. And supposedly this is the Book of Abraham, which is another. I think it was like a redo of or the first book of the Bible. I forget now. So let's just go through this a little bit. And this is Joseph Smith's mother. Again, like that should be Jesus on the wall, not that bullshit. I'm not gonna swear. Okay, sorry guys. So yeah, we're gonna talk about the papyri. We've spoken about the papyri. Let's go through a few other anachronisms. Because this book here is full of them. Okay, this book has been revised more times than I don't know, me revising for my matric high school. No joke. No. Quoting Isaiah. So Isaiah was a great prophet, okay? Probably one of the greatest prophets. Now, the Book of Mormon prophets quote chapters 48 through 54 of the Book of Isaiah after having left Jerusalem around 600 BC. Since Isaiah died around 698 BC, under traditional biblical belief, there would be no conflict. However, it is widely accepted that these chapters were not written by Isaiah, but rather by one or more people during the Babylonian captivity period, sometime between 586 and 358 BC, between 14 and 82 years after it could have been known to the Book of Mormon prophets. So there, they were translating stuff. They were writing out stuff, not knowing who it belongs to. This is just a jumble. Okay, this is just a jumble. Okay, the Book of Moses. Here we go. This is another one. In the Book of Mormon, around 600 BC, a prophet Nephi and his brothers discovered brass plates that they recovered brass plates that they discovered. It did contain the 5 books of Moses, which gave an account of the creation of the world, and also Adam and Eve, who were our first parents, and also a record of the Jews. Now, here's the thing. These Jews, Jew is a later word, because God's people are the Israelites, not the Jews, okay? And when Jesus Christ came, the chosen people, it was extended to many nations, okay? But fundamentally, it was a new covenant, so it was all those who believe in him, all those who believe in Christ. They are his people. They are Israel, okay? Not the nation state, and not what is being purported here. Jews, no. These would have been Israelites, not Jews, okay? I'm not going to read any of this. I'm just going to scroll down. So there were no horses mentioned in the Book of Mormon, and are portrayed. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, so I think there are horses in North America. Modern horses. So modern horses, I think they're arguing for here. But elephants, guys, come on. There are no elephants in America. No, there never were. Okay. Let's see. Chariots. There were no chariots in America in the Aztec times. You think people can ride chariots through the jungle, through the rainforest? No, they can't. Okay. What he was doing here is he was using biblical similarities to basically give this false text validity, okay? But he failed big time. So no chariots, no compass. There were no compasses here. Let's see here. I'll read this one because this is a good one here. The Book of Mormon also states that a compass, or liahona, was used by Nephi in the 6th century BC. The compass is widely recognized to have been invented in China around 1100 AD. So way off, okay, way off. Windows, dude, come on, man. This is one of the ones where I don't really understand how Mormons of today don't leave that place, because I'll just look it up here. When were Windows created? Okay. Okay, well, but we're talking about glass windows here, not actual windows. So actually the Romans did use glass windows. Let me double check it because I don't want to get this wrong. Near the time of the biblical, they specifically avoided crafting windows for lightning. Many of because it would have been dashed pieces during the ocean wide. Okay, so this is actually not a good one, but I can't imagine people living in the jungle with windows back like when do you know what I'm saying? Think about that. Okay, steel and iron. There were no steel swords. Metallurgy wasn't around at this time for the ancient peoples of America. It just was not. We're gonna stop there. So I just want to say we're going to go to, I want to add here, added and removed from the sacred book. And there is actually a Bible verse for this that I'm going to read now. Okay. Where is it? Oh, come on, I gotta find this. Okay, so it's Revelation 22:18. So it was right the first time. Okay. So we're going to go down. We're going to use their own version. We're going to use the Mormons' own version of the Bible to prove that it's false. So, for I testify unto every man that heareth the words of the prophecy of this book, if any man shall add unto these things, God shall add unto him the plagues that are written in this book. So, what that means in this context is that whoever falsely adds or takes away from the Bible shall be punished by God. Okay. And what happened to Joseph Smith in the end? He ended up being killed in prison. Okay. And I think his final words were a Masonic plea, which is, "Oh Lord, save me," or something like that. Okay. So that's all Masonic. So Mason, Mason, Mason. Devil worshipper, devil worshipper, devil worshipper. Okay. Right. This is powerful here. This here. Don't mess with the Lord. Okay. So we're going to close that for now. Now, we're gonna leave Mormonism for a second, and we're gonna go deeper now. We are going to go into the French Revolution and the rise of Napoleon and Napoleonic Wars and how this all ties in. So I mentioned a few minutes ago about the Rosetta Stone and how that proved a lot of the it proved Smith wrong about the papyri. But now let's go into the French Revolution. Now, at that time, Europe was monarchies. Okay, it was a feudalism and monarchies. So there was the British Empire. Then you had the Holy Roman Empire. You had the French Empire, but it was a kingdom, I think, before under Louis something. I'm not too clued up about the French Revolution, but I do know that the French Revolution was key in destroying the monarchies and replacing them with nation states. And this is very important because after this bit here, the French Revolution, Europe was in tatters for a long time, and it gave rise to a lot of hectic stuff. So there was a lot of fallout from the French Revolution, and this also led to the rise of this gentleman over here. Now, as you can see, what do we see here? He's covering his hand. This is a Masonic thing again. Okay, Napoleon was, and now it's not proven that he was a Mason, but he's very favorable to them. Okay, and now Napoleon was a great general. Okay, and a lot of what we would start saying from, like, a lot of modern history comes directly from after the Napoleonic Wars. So it was very important. The Napoleonic Wars were very important. Okay, and then let's note the date here again. 1815. So he was alive from here to there. Okay, so during the 1800s. And he became emperor of the French until his first abdication. Then he returned and then fought a bit more, and then boom, and then he got exiled again, and then he died. But Napoleon went all over the place. He went, like I said, to Egypt. He had his Italian campaign, and then he had his Egyptian campaign where he fought against the Ottomans. Okay, his troops, there was great excavations in Egypt at this time. A lot of good stuff. A lot of stuff was happening around this time. So you got the rise of Masonry in the 1800s. You have the French Revolution. Okay, now these things are tied. Okay, just use your head here for a second. We have the rise of Napoleon. We also have Freemasonry stretching over to America, and we have the Church of the Freemason, which is formed around about the time. It's all happening in the same time period. Okay, a lot of stuff is happening in this time period which is very interesting. Okay, so we have Napoleon, we have the French Revolution that took place, which gave rise to Napoleon. Okay, so Napoleon's rise, found the Rosetta Stone. Very important, by the way, Rosetta Stone. But now let's move on to the Napoleonic Wars, because this is where stuff gets really interesting. So the Napoleonic Wars, like I said, they stretched all over the place, and like if you're into history and stuff, you would have gone across Napoleon's conquests and all that. Personally, I'm not too fond of the Napoleonic Wars just for history side. I like ancient Roman stuff, but this is very important. So what happened was there was a great defeat that Napoleon had. So he tried to invade Russia, I believe, and he had about 600,000 men. Let's see if I can find that a second here. I mean, look at all this. Look at these, like 1,200,000 regulars. Crazy stuff. Crazy. Oh, here it is. Here. French and allies died of disease. So there is a time during the Napoleonic Wars. We'll see if I can find the picture where he tried to invade Russia, right? We'll leave it on here. So he tried to invade Russia around this time. So he completed his Italian campaign and then basically moved up through Venice, and I think this is Austrian Empire. There was a lot of wars here, and he was making his way, eastwards and northeastwards, and making his way to Moscow, right? He invaded Moscow. Now, this was happening in the early 1800s. Now, what I have here is a map of a place called Tartary. Okay, now this is very interesting. This is going into what modern people would call pseudoscience. I don't believe it is. Okay, I believe this is real. Okay, Tartary is a real place. It did exist. This was the empire of Christ's millennial reign, right? And the very interesting thing happened. So Napoleon invaded Russia with 600,000 men and only returned with 10,000 men. Okay. Now that's very interesting because there are accounts. Now I don't have them here. I should have pulled them up. But there were accounts of sorry, let me just pull this up. So yeah, French occupation of Moscow. So yeah, so what happened was he came up northeastwards into Moscow, and this was hell, right? It was mad. So basically, Napoleon, he didn't get very far here. He did a bit here. There was fires, and I remember that there was lots of fires, and eventually. Wow, this is pretty crazy. Damn. All these paintings, we can't replicate this stuff anymore. But he had to flee because of something. Now, the history books tell us that this was the cold guerrilla warfare. I think here, if we scroll down, it says the Cossacks as well were involved. Okay, they were like guerrilla warfare. These dudes, they were, doing crazy stuff. But no, there was something else that was going on. Okay. I'm just going to leave that there. So we go into, let us see, we have Tartary. Okay. Okay, Tartary was a blanket term used in Western European literature and cartography for the vast part of Asia bound by the Caspian Sea. Okay, I think it was called Grand Tartary. Russia was called Grand Tartary. Let's close this here. Tartarian Empire. Now, let's move on here. Pseudo-historical conspiracy theories. Nowadays, anything that says conspiracy theory might as well be the truth, okay? There was a systematic erasure of this great empire, and the evidence is everywhere. I'm going to show you pictures, right? I have pictures. I have evidence. Right, this is probably AI, but here's a good one. 1886 Potter Building. Now, what's happening? Why am I... Okay, if I don't click on him, you can see it better. But look at some of these buildings here. Some of these buildings that we can't replicate this stuff today, all right? At all. We can't replicate this stuff at all. Okay. You see, like, I recommend just searching up old Tartarian buildings, and there are a few kind of theories to this. So the mud flood is probably the most common theory that I've heard, but then there's also the Great Fires. Now I think it was both at the same time. Let's see here, cause and core claims of the theory. Theorists argue that major 19th century fires such as the Great Chicago Fire, Great London Fire, often cited, and we're not going to read that, were intentionally set to destroy Tatarian infrastructure and architecture. The evidence of their, as some believe, free energy technology. This is true. Now, we're going to go through the Great Fires. Right. Now, as we can see here, we have in the Middle Ages, but we have some fires, 16th century fires, right? We have a lot of fires starting to take place here now during the 17th century. We have the Great Fire of London and a few other things. But around about, where is it now? 1776, if I can find it. Boom, here. The first Great Fire of New York, right? Now, a lot of people believe that 1776 is when Lucifer was released from the pit, and what was happening here, if you wanted to destroy a great empire, what would you be doing? You'd be blowing these things up. I mean, let's just scroll here for a second, okay? 18th century. Look at all these fires. We have the first Great Fire of New York, okay? First Great Fire of New Orleans. So multiple fires. 1,100 structures burnt, okay? There's a Great Fire in Japan. Let's see here, 19th century. Great Fire of Detroit. Let's see, I want to see the buildings, right? So Russian Empire, Kiev. Great Fire. Over 2,000 buildings destroyed. 12 churches, 3 abbeys, about 30 deaths. You don't really get to destroy 2,000 buildings. You don't destroy 2,000 buildings and only have 30 deaths, okay? In a fire. It doesn't make sense to me, right? We have the Fire of Moscow, like I was mentioning earlier, when Napoleon essentially tried to invade Russia, or Tartary, as we shall now be calling it, which was started to deny shelter to Napoleon. Okay, so they were starting this against. Now, and look here, during this period here. Now, remember Napoleon I think he died around here, 1821. So from 1821 down, we have a lot of fires going on. We have Buffalo, New York, York, Upper Canada, burning of Washington, Portsmouth, New Hampshire, wherever there is, Bavaria. Okay, we have the fire of Bavaria, St. John's, Newfoundland, lots of fires. But look how many there are in the 18th century, right? There are quite a few. But now let's look at the 19th century. How many fires? In every decade, we have multiple fires. Of like so many buildings destroyed. 345 buildings destroyed, 1,000 buildings destroyed, 2,000 buildings destroyed, 1,800 buildings destroyed. Okay, and again, let's go back to the map of Tartaria. Look how big this place is. So we've got, and a lot of people believe as well that this stretches even to America, and I believe it. Okay, so we'll just return here quickly to these fires. Let's check how many more buildings. So 1850s, 2,000 buildings destroyed. Okay. They don't care about the deaths. They're just telling about buildings, right? Auckland fire. Right, that's not so good. It's here. Troy, New York, 671 buildings destroyed. all these buildings being destroyed in fires. It's no coincidence, if you ask me. Okay, I think everyone should do their own research about this stuff, but I'm going to leave that there with Tutorial for now. Just basically tying it all in, that a lot of stuff was happening. So, let's see, can I add anything here? And when I say a false church, I'm not even really just talking about the LDS church. I'm talking about essentially Christianity as it sprang forth from the 18th century, from the late 18th century. What it is today is not at all what it was before. And this is why I've always had a big problem with Christianity in the modern sense. Okay, so let's quickly go back here for a second and talk about views on reality. So the Mormons believe Jews, chosen people. Okay, I'll leave that there for now. And I'm going to close now the list of fires. Okay, now let's look at some destroyed buildings if we can. We'll go through. We're going to see if we can match up anything to the 19th century. Okay, so in 1826, a fire destroyed much of this place, right? And the remaining ruins were demolished in 1844. So here, in Belgium, okay. Okay, these monuments were rebuilt. Right. If we go down the list, you're going to see there's a lot of European places, cities, buildings that were all destroyed in fires or wars. Okay, no, all right, this is deliberate. Okay, and this all ties in with masonry. This will all tie in. Okay, but basically we'll leave it here for now. Then there's also, I'll skip that actually. I want to talk about Baroque. So Baroque is a high, ornate, dramatic, and theatre style of European art and architecture and music that flourished from roughly 1600 to 1750. Right, that's very interesting if you're clued up about millennial reign theory. Let's look at some images of Baroque architecture for a second. Oh yes, and I just want to add as well, this stuff as well was also Industrial Revolution also took place 1835. Sorry, around 1760, spread to Europe by about, and America to about 1840. So from 1760 to 1840, right? So these dates, keep these dates in your head as we go down the list, as we go through these tabs. Let's look at some Baroque architecture for a second. Does anyone believe that this can be replicated nowadays? No. I'm going to tell you right now, it cannot. There was technology in the past that we simply do not have anymore, which is by design. These masters, these master masons wanted to be like this, okay? So I'm going to close this down. Again, I just wanted to mention the Industrial Revolution, how it ties in here. And then I also want to mention quickly the War of 1812 between the United States and the United Kingdom, all right? Now this was kind of like a small, like a mini war. Like a lot of people know about the American Civil War, but not many people know about this, okay? Territorial changes, Anglo-Americans, okay, so this is when... what was I going to say about this? Trade restrictions, no. I think I'll just mention this because of the date, 1812. So you have all these wars, all these fires. Yes, I was going to go to the fires as well. So let's see, 1812. War of 1812. The French invasion of Russia. So simultaneously, during the War of 1812, which was also, a lot of buildings were destroyed during this time, right? You also had Napoleon's invasion of Russia, okay? And this was a turning point for Napoleon's wars. And Napoleon had essentially conquered He took over Austria, Prussia. He could not actually. There was a Battle of Trafalgar, which so Napoleon could never really beat the British at sea, and the British could never really beat Napoleon on land. So there was kind of like a stalemate there. But that all culminated in the Battle of Trafalgar, right? But basically, 1812, right? War of 1812 between the United States and Britain. French invasion of Russia. Here's another one here. It's very interesting. Great Britain experiences widespread economic distress, worst year. Luddite. So you know what a Luddite is someone who doesn't like tech. So this is all happening as well during the Industrial Revolution. So this all kicked off. You have Napoleon's wars, all these fires, War of 1812, Napoleon's invasion of Russia. This is no mistake, okay? And here we're going to go through a few more. We're going to go through a few more pictures. I really just want to drum this into your head, whoever will listen, that something is missing here, and it is all tied. The Mormon Church is tied with it. Napoleon is tied with it. It's all tied. It's all linked. All right, let's close this. All right, we'll keep that open for now. Now I'm going to talk about. This is a very difficult topic, but the serpent seed. Okay, so now there is a fringe Christian belief, also known as the doctrine of the serpent seed, or also known as the dual seed or two seed line doctrine. Okay, it is a controversial belief in some fringe Christian Abrahamic religions. Basically, I'll give you a long story short. Basically, Cain isn't Adam's son. It's actually the devil's son, because Eve, being the whore she was, right? I know we all, but like, it's like these watchers as well. They all having sex with these women, and then Satan had sex. It was like these girls can't keep their legs closed. Basically, this is where we have all these problems from. This one right here, Eve. Now, I kind of do believe in this to a certain extent, because I have a picture to show you guys. I don't think you'd appreciate this, but I will give him the credit for it. But I found this good, very good diagram on the dual seed bloodline. Okay. Or the biblical family tree after the flood. So he put down here, everyone is red. These are going to be the final armies that try and destroy the Israelites, or Israel. And Israel is not a nation state. Israel is a nation. What was a nation, was a tribe, was a people, up until Christ's return. Then Israel now becomes those who accept Christ as Lord. So, but this is also simultaneously a spiritual and a blood difference. So we have these people here, Ashkenaz, and what do we have? We have the Ashkenazi Jews. We have Khazarian Jews. These people claim to be Israel, but they are not. Okay, so I just wanted to quickly pull that up, because this is probably the best diagram I could find. I actually ripped this from a video. I'm gonna link it down below, because it's very important. So yeah, I don't know if you would appreciate in the context I'm using it in, but this isn't really to discredit anyone, because as I say again, those who believe in Christ, those are his people. I want to hammer that home. But there is at the same time there is a secondary ruling class, and they come from the serpent seed. Now I think this is kind of slightly off, because if we talk about the book of Enoch, where is it now? Damn it, I don't know if I'm going to be able to find this. Hold on. Okay. Right. Now the Watchers were basically the angels that followed Lucifer down to the world when he was cast out of heaven. And what they did was they actually mated with human women and produced the giant Nephilim, which were then destroyed in the flood, Noah's flood, right? But these pre-races would be what you would call antediluvian, okay? And their physical forms were destroyed, but now they are it even says here at the bottom here, origin of demons. The spirits of the giants are doomed to roam the earth as evil spirits, demons, okay? Now think about that. So we have the dragon mentioned in Revelation, the serpent, the great serpent, right? So Satan is known as the serpent. He's also the serpent in Eden, and he is the great dragon in Revelation, okay? So we have that here. And his followers are reptilians. They are the spirits of the Nephilim, okay? Now they haven't taken Lucifer cannot take flesh. He cannot take shape in form, okay? He needs to have certain things in order to be doing this, and we're approaching this time, okay? But I just wanted to mention that because I'm not going to bring up that picture again, but basically we have a lot of other people in this world, other races who are of this blood, and I'm just going to leave it there, okay? Edom is one of them. Edom is one of the enemies of the people of Israel, and they will be here again. The people of Edom will be here to also be at war with Israel during the final days. Now, when I say Israel again, I need to just stress this. The Israel of God, of people who follow Christ, okay? God's people, not the nation state, not the people who claim to be Jews but are not, but are the synagogue of Satan, okay? Just need to make that clear. So Edom as well, they're going to be here. Okay. Should I go into this? No, I think I've explained that pretty good. I haven't really added too much to this. I might just end the video and write it out here, but I just want to explain more. Okay. I don't believe in this for a second. I don't. It is definitely more this than it could be this. And I think the Watchers have created this. So we have now these bloodlines in humanity, these shapeshifters. Now, this is kind of delving into the realm of this is not going into biblical or anything like this, but this is going into kind of like very fringe conspiracies here. But I believe it, okay? We have the ruling elite who are, a lot of them are Masons, a lot of them have sold their souls to the devil, yes, but a lot of them are also of a certain people, a certain bloodline, okay? They claim to be Jews today, but are not, okay? You will find that it is the Jewish people who are behind a lot of the stuff, a lot of the evil that is going on in this world. So it is my belief that they are tied to the concept of the serpent seed, right? I don't have much evidence to support this claim, but I just want to make that clear, okay? I just want to state my position on that. And then I also just want to quickly talk about the king of Tyre and the prince of Tyre. This is a story. Basically, there is a battle in Tyre, Tyre was a city, and the man who went to take Tyre was the prince of Tyre. So what this interprets as is that basically we have these earthly rulers. So we have, like, shall we say, like, for example, the king of England or whatever, right? These earthly rulers are actually under the guidance. These princes of Tyre, these princes of these earthly realms are actually under the dominion of the king of Tyre, which is Lucifer, okay? The dark one, right? So I just want to make that clear as well. Just tie that in to the serpent seed point that I made, okay? And for the final bit, I want to talk about hope. Now there's hope here, okay? Before I finish, I'm going to read a few verses, but I want to talk about the fall of Babylon. Okay, now Babylon, let's just pull this up here, because this is amazing. This is a painting by John Martin, and this is the destruction of Babylon. Now this here is what's going to happen to this world. Now God's judgment of Babylon is swift. So I've actually messed up here. So we're going to close the watcher. We're going to close that. So let's talk here. Babylon. I'm going to read a bit of Revelation. Okay, this is Revelation 17. Then one of the seven angels... No, I need to go King James Version. Okay. And there came one of the seven angels, which had the seven vials, and talked with me, saying unto me, Come hither, I will shew unto thee the judgment of the great whore that sitteth upon many waters, with whom the kings of the earth have committed fornication, and the inhabitants of the earth have been made drunk with the wine of her fornication. Okay, so he carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness, and I saw a woman sit upon the scarlet-colored beast, full of the names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns. And the woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet color, decked with gold and precious stones and pearls, having a golden cup in her hand, full of abominations and filthiness of her fornication. And upon her forehead was a name written, Mystery Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and the abomination of the earth. And I saw the woman drunken with the blood of the saints and with the blood of martyrs and Jesus. And when I saw her, I wondered with great admiration. So this system we live under today, the system of oppression, is so vast, right? It's so encompassing, right? So I just wanted to read that first bit there. Now, let me see. Am I going to get to this? Not just yet. Okay. So, Babylonian magic. This is where a lot of the stuff we see in the modern day, this is where it all comes from, right? Babylon is key to all this, right? The fall of Babylon is key. We'll talk about this briefly, but basically, I should have included this in the other bit here. But the Talmud, right? Yeah, this is where I want to talk about. So the Talmud is one of the central texts of Rabbinic Judaism, and second in authority only to the Hebrew Bible. Okay, they claim it to be the first 5 books which form the Torah, along with the text of the Nevi'im, what they call the prophets, and the whatever, right? No, wrong. This Talmud comes from ancient Babylonian magic, right? Blood magic, black magic, right? Which is known as the Kabbalah. And they have used the Kabbalah and hidden it in these texts, which they now teach to themselves, okay? Now, a lot of this is hidden, all right? It's hidden in another language. So you won't be able to find it. I'm going to add this here. I'm going to talk about this a bit later. Right, so I just want to quickly just go back here. So, Jews and the Mormons. Now, the Mormons believe that the Jews, the modern Jews, are God's chosen people. They believe that they are the house of Israel, okay? So, clearly misinformed. I added that to my thing here. Okay. I'm also going to add here, no issue with folk magic or any blatant sorceries. I'm going to tidy this up a bit and then I'm going to present it at the end. Okay. But yeah, so again, this all ties in because think about who was in control of Europe at this time, the banking dynasties, the rise of the Freemason Church. You if you know who controls these Masons, okay, this all ties together. All right. I'll not cover this, but basically, there's also what I was saying earlier about how we have earthly rulers, and then we have these powers, these higher demons. So this is very interesting because in Daniel 10, I think he's praying for a message from God, and basically the messenger's delayed for 21 days because of a powerful spiritual entity, right, that rules over the kingdom of Persia, prince of the kingdom of Persia. Okay, so we have whole nations, whole countries, like the modern day Babylon. We are under the rule of a new prince. Okay, and you see how this prince is able to even delay God's messengers. Okay, but they cannot stop anything. But this is also Babylon. This is where this stuff comes from. The black cube of Saturn. Okay, now let's see. Does it mention anything about Babylon? No. So we'll just skip that for now. But this is the new Babylon here. Okay. This is the new Babylon. This is the new ziggurat, and this is the new Babylon. America has been hijacked and is now the new Babylon. But it's not going to last forever because it's been foretold. I'm going to get onto that now. So Babylon is fallen. And after these things I saw another angel come down from heaven, having great power, and the earth was lightened with his glory. And he cried mightily with a strong voice, saying, Babylon the great is fallen, and has become the habitation of devils, and the hold of every foul spirit. Oh no, I think I'm reading. I'm not going over here. Sorry. Cancel that. This is what I meant. Okay, I can't find it, but basically what it's saying is that this place here, it fell quick, right? What we have now is we have the elites, we have the tiny hats, we have the nation of Edom, the descendants of the serpent blood, the people who have sold their souls, even some of the children of Israel who have turned away and have sold their souls now to the devil for the riches of this world, because we are not under God's rule at the moment. We are on God's time. God is in control, but for a brief time Satan has been let loose, and we are in his new kingdom, Babylon. Or even a better description is Rome, but Babylon is more, this is where it all comes from. This is where all this magic, all these people, these Khazars, these Ashkenaz, this is the center, Babylon. Okay. A lot of even world history centers around this mighty nation. And it was a mighty nation. Okay. That was so mighty, there were actually two. It's mentioned twice. There are two Babylonian empires in the Bible. There's the first Babylonian empire, I think, under the Chaldeans, and then there's the other ones, I think, under the Assyrians. I'm not too sure, but yes. But don't lose hope, because when Babylon falls, it falls swift, okay? And then I want to just quickly read this, just to give some hope now. Where is the... Okay. And be not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind, that ye may prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of God. Okay, so don't be a part of this world, right? We need to remain separate, okay? And saying, the time is fulfilled and the kingdom of God is at hand. Repent ye and believe the gospel. Don't lose hope, guys, okay? But take action, because we have to do our part here, Okay, and then I want to read this last one. Jesus said unto him, Thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart and with all thy soul and with all thy mind. Okay, this is all we need to do, right? Fundamentally, this is the first step, and everything is going to change once we do this, once we surrender to God. Okay, I have a problem with this, but this is what we need to do, and we need to accept Jesus. Okay, and we need to help other people now and warn other people. And I'm gonna leave it there, but I'm gonna finish up my evidence of a false church and other correlations, and then I'm going to quickly run through it at the end. But this is the end of the main presentation, and I will make a follow-up video where I go through that. Okay, so I'm back, and I'm just here to finish off what I was talking about earlier on in the video. So I said that I would just complete this graph, but then I also want to mention a few more things and explain my reasons. Excuse me. So first of all, I'd like to discuss Mormons' support of Israel. Okay, so I recommend you just pause the video here if you want to read this, but this is very much in line with Talmudic teachings. Okay, and then this is very interesting as well. Some members and critics express concern regarding the church's neutrality or investments during modern conflicts in Gaza. So they're investing in these conflicts. They're a part of the beast system. Okay. I also want to talk about quickly the books added to the Bible that the Mormons have done, which I've listed here. Okay. So these are the 3 books added. And if you remember, Scripture says, anyone who adds or removes from the sacred book shall have plagues added to them. So Joseph was killed in Carthage jail, essentially like the dog he was, power-hungry fool. People just had enough of his lies, and they killed him, basically. Okay. And then also I want to just quickly cover this for a second as well. The Mormons defending Masonry. So this is very interesting here. The stepping stone perspective. So early church leaders such as Joseph Fielding considered Freemasonry a stepping stone that helped prepare early saints to understand temple principles and covenants. Okay. And there's another one as well. There was one here where they actually removed text saying don't be a part of. Yeah, this is it right here. Modern coexistence. In 1984, the Grand Lodge of Utah lifted its formal ban on church members joining Masonry. Consequently, the church removed languages prohibiting secret societies from its handbook. So there are again additions and retractions. Today, many members hold membership in both organizations, and some have held high office in both, such as Glenn Cook, who was a high-ranking Mason and a faithful servant of Baal, right? And then I want to cover this last bit here, and then that'll be it for today. So why is it? Yeah, I might as well just do this a second. Okay, so in conclusion, so we're going to go through the evidence. So sorcery and abomination to God, secret societies, unfavorable in God's eyes, blatant sorceries within the church, blatant sorceries, books added and removed. I don't know if I'll have time for this one, but there's been many prophecies that the Mormons have predicted that they're just false, and every time one is proven false, they slip in a change. They change it up a wee bit. Okay, then we have Masonic connections, and it's actually been more now. There are more Masons in the church. It's an easy way for them to funnel money to their grand architect and so forth, right? High-ranking early church members were Masons. This is interesting. Remember I mentioned Bennett, assisting first president, testifies against the church, especially against Joseph Smith, the Tartarian connections. These are very vague, but this is happening all around the same time. Okay, so church founding, great fires, I'm going to say 1800s. Okay, and also I didn't cover the comet of 1811, but that also... Okay, and then my personal experience of Mormons, right? So these people are ill-informed of the world. They don't really understand how the world works, because they've just been raised in this enclosure, this mental enclosure. Okay, they have superiority complex. There's so many Mormons I meet that turn up their nose to me because I've left the church or whatever. Happens all the time. And they have this holier than thou attitude. And even the way they speak to you, if you speak to Mormons, you'll see what I'm saying. So yeah, again, they cut off from reality, but what I mean here really is society. They cut off from normal human society. So in general, society's crap now, but it wasn't always like this, and then they've just been cut off from the beginning. They're toxically positive. They believe that nothing, just think happy thoughts. Always be thinking happy thoughts. Something might have happened to your family. Oh, just think happy thoughts. They don't really, they have no understanding of the normal world, how bad things happen to people, and that sometimes you don't, happy thoughts, you can't just always think happy thoughts. So they've suspended their frontal lobes. They are completely mind wiped. And then this is my personal experience. So as I grew up in the church, I realized that most Mormon males are overweight and, to be quite honest, really stupid. Like ill-informed, but also this is important here. The fact that these people are fat, just think about that on your own. Okay, views on reality. Mormons believe Jews are the chosen peoples, not the followers of Christ, who are the true Israel. Okay, they have no issue with folk magic or any blatant sorceries that have happened in the past. I should have added that, in the past. And even to this day, they defend Masonic practices. Okay, they defend cultic practice openly as well as Masonry. As I said earlier, there's a coexistence thing here, okay? And then also the Mormons that I've met, actually every Mormon I've met, even my parents, they defend the additions and the revisions to the book because, again, so brainwashed that whenever these prophecies don't come true, they're changed up, and then whenever they have their general conference, they slip in the new programming. So in conclusion, these people have been so thoroughly brainwashed, it's actually pitiful. I am in great sadness for them. They have no idea the open blasphemous practices they perform and are willing defenders and protectors of the beast system we live under today. They have deep ties to the nation state of Israel, nation states, okay? And ultimately their life force is harvested by Moloch. Very sad indeed. So that is my, not really like a deep dive, but kind of just like an unscripted, just delve into some connection. So I made this not to prove anything. I don't want anyone to just believe me. This should just be food for thought, something you should think about, and really investigate for yourself. I've just brought up a few things here in the last hour and a bit. Stuff that these dots should be connected. You must be connecting these dots for yourself. No matter what anyone tells you, I can't convince you. No one can convince you. But yeah, I didn't make this to convince anyone. I just want to show the evidence of a false church, which I believe I've proven. Okay, and there's actually other people who've done it better than I. But this is just my way of doing it. Okay, this is just a schizo way of doing it. And other correlations during that time period. So again, we spoke briefly about Tataria and secret societies, rise of secret societies, SLS theory, serpent seed theory, and a few other things. Okay, but yes, thank you very much, and